The Gap. Hello, I'm Derek Arden and welcome to Monday Night Live. Tonight, I'm privileged to have the Castle Man with me, Roger Monsterson. Roger, welcome to Monday Night Live. Roger, you've had a very interesting career, starting on Marks and Spencer's, doing all sorts of things, and now you run 327 castles all around the world. What an extraordinary feat. Roger, tell us a little bit about you.
Where do you want me to start?
Well, I think as a little boy growing up in Belfast, I think would be a great start.
Okay. Basically, my first sort of touch on work was at 10 years old. And you remember those little petrol stations you used to have in the village? I was able to get a job there serving petrol. And what I very quickly realized, if I cleaned the flies off the windscreen, checked the oil and the tire pressure, etc., I would get more money. A little tip here and there and whatnot. And I suppose that was my first touch on what customer service can do, both from an experience point of view, but more importantly, from my pocket at the time. So I'd always wanted to run my own business, and I did lots of little things as kids do. But as I progressed, a few years later, I set up a window cleaning round and found I could clean three, then four, then six bungalows within an hour and charging then £3 a bungalow. I was bringing in nearly £20 an hour on my own running round doing this. So started to employ a few mates. Then as we started to drive, I hitched on somebody else's car. We stuck a roof rack on and started to do big houses. And other little things like they were building 53 houses near us. We went in as a sort of gang of mates and started to landscape the gardens. So I'd always wanted to do something on my own, but I did realize that at school I needed to get a proper job. And from there was lucky enough to get on the Marks and Spencer's Young Management Training Scheme. So I wasn't for university. I wasn't academic at school. In fact, at school, I was told I was stupid all the time. And it wasn't until the age of 27 did I realize I was dyslexic. But I look at the positive parts of that, which you'll probably pick up as we go through this. So got into M&S. That was my ticket off the island. So I had to leave Northern Ireland and Ireland to start working, as it turned out, in South Wales. And very quickly moved through the young management training scheme, which was brilliant. We were given responsibility literally from day one. And I progressed through the organization on the commercial stream, then opening up new stores and doing store development, etc. But I ended up doing a food development in Aberdeen and was about to be moved back down to London and just thought, no, I'm not fussed going down here. Scotland is amazing. I'd only been there for a year. And I decided to go and look for another job, which took me into the publishing world, which was the opposite extreme, really, to Marks and Spencer's. And very siloed business. Nobody spoke to each other within these silos. And how they got a newspaper out, I have no idea. But it was a fantastic bed to pull out the creativity that I have through dyslexia, but also organizing and cutting across all these silos to make progress. So I was sort of highlighted very quickly and fast tracked through the business. And at one point, the internet had come along and I'd spotted a book on the desk of one of the MDs. And I said, oh, can I borrow that? And read it. And it just changed my whole perception on what was going to happen in the world. So as a result, I got 50 of the journalists, editors, etc., from all over the UK and said, hey, guys, we need to change our thinking. And they just laughed at me. So I decided this was not the place for me and went and set up an internet company. We were ahead of the curve, but we set up a retail and a tourism, and this was my first touch on tourism, portal about Scotland. And it became the largest traffic site when the internet just began. And we were ahead of the curve, as I mentioned. So we were explaining what the internet was going to do and change our lives. So people didn't understand it. And we built the largest kilt maker in the world online, with a high traffic site coming through to help hotels. But little things I started to pick up. We go to the hotel and say, listen, we've brought you 3,000 inquiries. You know, how's the business? And they'd say, we've had nothing. Mavis comes in on Saturday. She downloads all the emails. Do you remember those days when we used to have to download emails? And she's replied to all of them. In fact, she had to work on Sunday to reply to them all, but nobody's booked. And nobody's booked because it took them a week to reply to the email. So I started to look at other niches. And what we developed with this product is a skill where I knew how to niche down on the net and bring high traffic to it. And this is not pay-per-click or anything like this. This is content and how people find it. So as a result, I saw an ad in the Times for a lovely little product called Crofts and Castles. And I like staying in unusual places. So I sent off for this booklet. It came through. It was gorgeous. Little A5 booklet, color pages, really well produced. But from a customer perspective, it really created some angst for me. There was no crofts in it. They were all bungalows, so no little thatched cottages, little places in little nooks and crannies. But it did have two castles in it. And when I looked inside these castles with the photography, I thought, oh, I'm not sure I'd want to stay in one of those. But it sparked curiosity. And from there, I started to ask, how would somebody find a castle to stay in? And that was the start of Celtic Castles. So I spent 18 months finding and looking for castles in Scotland through all the tourist board brochures. And there were only 4 that were advertising. And in those days, you have to be a member of the tourist board to be able to advertise, etc., etc. So for those 4 castles, I sent off for their brochure, and it was an A4, 3-fold, pretty naff presentation. So we scanned the pictures, we copied the text, we put a bit of history on there, and we put a booking form on. And in 3 hours, a guy in New York filled the form in. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. So I phoned up the castle. How much is it for these dates, etc., etc. Got all the information, and then sent the information to this chap. And he literally just pinged back his credit card details. There was no security on the internet in those days at all. It was just, yeah, book it. So I phoned the castle back, and I said, oh, well, I basically said blimey when this came in, but then phoned the castle back and said, can I make this booking? I'm going to give you the card details. Can you take the payment? Yes, no problem at all. And then when I put the phone down, something I just said, I said, normal agent's commission. And they said, yes, that's fine. And I wondered, first of all, where did that come from? And what does it mean? But very quickly, when we started to give them lots of business, and in fact, in 4 months, we gave all these 4 castles more business than they'd ever seen from what they thought was an advert. We did know what the agent's commission was and how the model worked. And also what we said at the start was, number 1, we're going to be the fastest back on email. Number 2, we're going to get to know these castles really well. And we were phoning these castles up probably 20, 25 times a day to place bookings and check availability. And of course, they didn't have internet, they didn't have email. So we had to use a fax machine to put that through while we were communicating with customers on email. And we also said, we're not going to go to these castles and say, you should be part of Celtic Castles, because we're going to end up in the loop that we were in before with the other business, explaining what a dial-up is, what a website is, etc., etc. They've got to find us online. And if they can find us online, they know what they're doing. And we've kept that through right to this very day. We don't go and knock on castles and say, you should be part of Celtic Castles. They have to be referred or find us. And we've grown the business literally 1 booking at a time, 1 castle at a time. And the way we generate an audience is through being top of Google, so organic search, and through referral. And that's how we've grown it to what it is today. And we have eight people in the team working 7 days a week now, answering emails. We now do Zooms. There's not a lot done on the telephone, but that's still a facility. But most of the stuff goes through email. And we work on the relationship we have with the castles. And our USP would be somewhere along the lines of, we know these castles better than the staff. As you know, in hospitality, there's a lot of churn with people, etc. So we sometimes have to create the teams. They'd say, oh, are you sure it's that room, etc., etc. Because we've been there, we've stayed there, we've holidayed there, etc. And it's that relationship that we have with the properties that makes the difference. But we can compare and contrast castles, bedrooms, locations, etc. So that's it in a nutshell.
Fantastic. Right, some questions. The first question is, what was the book you mentioned that changed your life?
The company doesn't exist anymore. Oh, sorry, the book. I
Yeah.
don't remember. It was something. It was one of the early internet books. You wouldn't even look at it now because it's so out of date. But it was something like an introduction to the internet.
Okay. Do you pay for Google Ads?
No,
I thought that's what you said. You said you just you get.
or, organic. We're at the top of the list. We're really strong internally on SEO, and from there, we've not done any pay per click. We don't pay on social channels at all.
Okay, Roger, shall we have a look at some of your castles? Why don't we
We
do
can do, yes. Uh-huh.
why don't we do that? Well, I just so happen to have one or two of them here. Now,
So this is our homepage.
okay.
And this isn't always the starting point. It's quite interesting with websites because we have so much content on here. At the top, you'll see hotels, wedding venues, rent a castle. That's a whole castle. You've got corporate, you've got tours, you've got self-catering or vacation rentals. If you want packages for Christmas, New Year, if you need some inspiration, it's there. And there's experiences. So there's so much content on this site, which we're updating all the time. We want to create a facility where a client can do a search. So say they want to rent a castle in Ayrshire, we want the castle or this listing of the castle to pop up so they have one click and they see the information. So that's our whole philosophy. But likewise, somebody can come in here and browse. And what tends to happen is they get overwhelmed by the choice. And you'll see at the top there, speak to a castle expert. Lots of people come in there and just say, help me. These are what I'm looking for, and we work from there. But there's huge amounts of information on here, and you'll see it's very visual. It's quite magazine-y style, etc. But we're honing in to help a customer find what they're looking for easily.
Wow. Okay. Next picture. Where's that? That looks nice.
Now, this is a Scottish castle, and it's called Blair Juan. It sleeps 30 in the castle, but you can get 100 on the estate. So it's a beautiful castle inside. It was refurbished about 8 or 9 years ago, and when you get in there, you feel totally secluded and private. It's on its own private estate, but there's a lot of lovely stories. I'm very fond of all the castles for different reasons, and it's a privilege, obviously, to go and stay in them, to meet the teams that run them and the owners, etc. But this was famous for one of the recent movies, The Queen. And if you pop up the next slide, Derek, this is the room that was used in the film where Helen Mirren was filmed as the Queen. And it's now called the Queen's Room. And I've got a funny story about Helen Mirren. Helen and I have touched bases in a number of castles. And I remember when we first started the business, one of our first castles was Castle Stuart. And it was a haunted castle, but you weren't told it was haunted until you left. And I slept in a bedroom in the top of the tower. I'm not going to go through the haunted story, but basically, the Duke of Moray abandoned the castle for 350 years because of an incident. So we don't have time to go through that. But anyway, Helen slept in this room as well on her honeymoon in 1999 or going into 2000. And they'd all had a bit to drink, etc. And she went up to the room, and it was early hours in the morning, and there's little shutters on all the windows, and they were closed. And she's sitting there, she's had a few drinks, and there's all these lights flashing around, and she thought this was the haunting. Anyway, then obviously she's filming in here, and Nan, who runs this castle, knows that story. So she said, we're going to put Roger in this room. Now, I was asked to come and help her because she had a load of other tour operators in, and she wanted to hear a few of the stories and me to support her. So she put me in the Queen's room, which of course Helen Mirren has slept in. So my claim to fame is I've slept in two beds that Helen Mirren has slept in, but not at the same time.
I love it. I love it.
And if you touch the next your next slide, as you were joking earlier on, I do enjoy a little bit of a tipple and surrounding myself with beautiful women. Now, whoever took this shot got in trouble because when my wife saw this, she says, "What's going on here?" Needless to say, this was a great gambling night because we got given all the chips for free. We didn't have to buy anything, and we just played until we lost them. This just went on forever.
So was this in the same castle?
That's in that particular castle, yes. And again, in these, this is an exclusive use castle, so you don't just buy bedrooms; you have to take the whole place. And it would cost from about sort of 10 to 12,000 pounds a night for 30 people, but you can bring anything in. We did activities on the lawn, mini Highland games, etc. We had a piper in there, so it was really Scottish. The food was amazing. Callum, the chef, was out of this world, and this is the sort of atmosphere that you can create inside.
Actually, that doesn't sound too bad per person doing my maths on
Oh,
that.
it is good value. It is good value. Yeah, if
Well,
you've got a
perhaps
good.
Will Kintish will take us all there for his big birthday. I'm looking forward to that, aren't you, Roger?
Well,
Okay.
they'll need a bigger castle than that with all his network friends.
Yeah, of course, the number one networking guru. We'll have to bring everyone. Okay, so where's this?
Oh no, this is Glynn Castle. Lovely. I've got so many different stories. I love staying here. Dominic West married into the family, so he's the famous element of this, and his wife Catherine, she's a garden designer who's absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, Glynn is on the banks of the Shannon Estuary. So, not the last time I was there, but the time before, we were doing a motorcycle tour around Ireland. Rocked up, we hadn't eaten all day. We've been riding for, gosh, maybe 8 hours or so. And Colm, who'd met us, he said, because we were the only ones staying in the castle, or that's what we thought. Again, exclusive use, 30 people can stay here. And I said, we need some food if we're going to the pub. And so we went round to his sister-in-law's, who was cooking a dinner, and he brought back 2 roast dinners for us, which we ate in the castle kitchen. I was happy. We were fueled and ready for the night. What I hadn't realised is that his brother had got his boat out, and we sailed from Kerry over to Clare, which is the other side of the estuary here. As the sun was going down with dolphins jumping at the side of us, we pulled the boat up at the harbour, walked up the street, literally 100 yards, and there's 4 pints of Guinness waiting for us as we walked into the pub. And then we came back. But what was lovely is I hadn't realised Catherine, who's the owner, and this, there's loads of history of this castle. It goes back 900 years. Catherine was entertaining another garden designer, and they'd gone to dinner at Adair Manor. So I hadn't realized they were staying in the castle. I just thought it was myself and my brother who were on our motorbikes. And in the morning, I got up early. I was sitting in the garden taking some photographs. It was a gorgeous morning. And I heard this rustle and a little dog run through, and it was Catherine. And Catherine thought it was her friend. And I said, no, Catherine, it's Roger. Oh, yes, Roger, of course, blum, blum, blum. And she's in her nightdress. I'm I'm sort of half dressed as well. And we ended up walking around the garden for an hour just chatting about everything. And I love gardening. So to be with her and walk around the garden was really, really special. And the last time I was there, her mother was in the castle on her own, and we all had dinner, butler, chef, everything else. And it was lovely. But again, really unique property, totally different from the other one. But it's about what happens in these places. The other good thing, and you can't see it on here, literally on the castle wall, which is where the trees are on the top right, there's the village of Glynn, and there are 4 pubs in there. So that makes it even more special. Proper Irish
Whiz.
hospitality.
So are all these castles for exclusive use or some
No, no,
hotels?
no. You've got hotel castles, you've got self-catering vacation rental properties, and you've got big castles that are exclusive, little castles that are exclusive, but every one is unique. Yeah. And
Right.
you see the other pictures here. Again, here's a lovely shot of the castle gardens. And again, when you walk around them, it's really beautifully put together because of Catherine's skill. And then I'm not sure what the other image was that we had. Was it interior? Oh no, it's just another shot again of the gardens at a different time. So all the light down there, because there's no light pollution, is gorgeous as well. But location is great. County Kerry, access to the southwest of Ireland. You couldn't beat it with a big stick. Absolutely fantastic.
Now I know all the tourist boards show pictures of the west of Ireland like this, Roger. Whenever I've been there, it's been pouring with rain. Are you sure you haven't touched those pictures up
I
with?
haven't touched those six, but you asked the question, why is Ireland so green?
Well, because it rains a lot, I know, and it's the
Absolutely.
same with.
And this is one of 3 days a year that this happens. You get blue sky. And
And you
that's when you light the fire in the castle, sit inside and drink Irish whiskey.
and you just happen to have your cameraman there on that day.
Yeah.
I know. So where's this?
So again in Ireland, down near Waterford, in a village called Lismore. Now, this is the Duke of Edinburgh's, or Duke of Devonshire's rather, Irish home. So what happens is when we want to put people in here, he moves out, we move in. And this sits above the Blackwater River. And when you're walking past it, it is enormous. It looks huge, but it only sleeps 27. Again, exclusive use. The last time I stayed there, I was there for 3 days on my own in this castle with 6 butlers. It was bonkers. But what we did was we did lots of activities. So I ended up kayaking down the Blackwater River for a whole morning. And I'm terrified of water. So, it was a bit of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen here? It was October. The leaves were just changing color. It was gorgeous. And we're going down. I must have seen 32 herons. The wildlife was just amazing. And then we pulled up at this ruin further down and walked up through the gardens, and the gardeners were out sweeping the leaves and tidying the place up. And this elegant lady was walking along with 2 dogs, taking their dogs for a walk in her garden. And we just said hi, blah, blah, blah. She said, do you want to come in for tea? So we were invited in, and it's a place called Turin House. So wandered in, and we sat there for 2 hours. As strange, oh well, me as a stranger. I think the chap that was with me did know her, and we put the worlds to rights. She showed us around the house and whatnot. But again, having access and that hospitality in Ireland was just one of those pinch moments. And just the conversation that we had was fantastic. And those are the sort of things that we can put together for clients who stay here. And things like when they take it exclusively, there's a chef in there and whatnot. If there's a family, the kids can go down and mess around in the kitchen with the chef and they do activities. You can go out to the garden and pick the veg that's going to be cooked that night. Everything's flexible, and it's in a wonderful part of Ireland, which gives you access to the southeast, right up to Tipperary and across. And if you want to go to West Coast and see the Cliffs of Moher, again, there's a driver there that will do that for you. But a lovely place. But the fact that the Duke of Devonshire owns it, is another little twist. And you see their history because they lived in the castle all around, whether that be photographs, etc. So it's not staged at all. It's real. And as you can see, it looks like a fabulous castle. You can
What
see a couple
strikes
of
me?
pictures inside if you go
Yeah,
through it as well, just to show the grandness. So this
yeah.
is the type of bedroom. So it is like stepping back in time. And from there, you know, royalty have slept in these beds. You are physically touching history. And then the Great Hall, which is the next slide, Derek. Imagine having an evening meal in there.
Wow.
Fire, the stained glass window, and you're literally walking in. It has the largest collection of Pugin furniture in the world, and that's outside the House of Commons because all the House of Commons furniture was made by Pugin.
What's Pugin furniture? Forgive my
It's
ignorance.
he's a craftsman who did all the furniture for Parliament,
Wow.
and that's the largest collection outside.
Wow. What strikes me, Roger, as a former banker, is the cost of upkeep of these places.
Yes, very high, very high. When you hear the pain that some of these owners go through, then you understand, the huge amount of cost. Even a small castle, your electricity or your utilities bill can be thousands per week.
Mm. So it's very difficult for them to break even.
Well,
Presumably, letting it out is a contribution to the overheads, really.
indeed. Well, a lot of these estates now are having to look at different revenue streams. So hospitality is a key element. So you're starting to see more come in the market. Some get it right, some don't. But yes, that becomes, one of the cash flow areas that they need. But little things. I mean, I was with a castle up in Scotland last year, and what they just wanted to do was start letting, but get £100,000 together to fix the roof. So, if we have a problem with a tile or, a bit of water coming in the roof, it's not cheap for a normal house. but it's hassle and it is costly. You
Mm.
stick that on a castle that's 4 or 5 stories high, even the scaffolding costs would cost more. So yeah, it's always anything that happens in a castle. It is a big job and a big consideration.
So how many castles have you got on your books?
We've got, I think it's 273, and we work very, very closely with 125 of those. We've different channels and how we do business with them. But yeah, the ones that we're really close to are the UK and Ireland, and we're building up country by country. And what we're doing is we're starting a channel to get people to see castles in that country, and these are hotels to start with. Then we'll build it up, and then we'll start to work directly with them as opposed to electronically. And then we start to bring in exclusive use castles, and we're going to put experts in each country. So that's the plan for the business potentially going forward. And it still falls into the area that, people have to find, the castle owners have to find us and then want to join.
Wow. Wow. And which is the most awkward country to deal with?
Uh, France,
Really?
yes. And it's not on the paperwork and all the bureaucracy. It's just their attitude. So little things like if you want to get information from them, it takes forever. You want to make a booking, it takes forever. Whereas Italy, for example, they're back to you with bells and whistles straight away. And the service level is through the roof. So, yeah, the French are an interesting breed. And even when you get to know them, and you go over and physically spend time with them and everything else, there's still that difficulty to move information forward. And if you remember before, we started the business on the speed of response, and if you read our comments, it's all about we're really quick getting back to people. So many people don't respond to email, even properties, and that's our whole thing. So when we get that with France, it's just like we can't spend time with this. In some instances, we're contacting a property 20 times to get information, and you
Mm.
can't sustain a business on that.
And you're really acting just like a travel agent, a middleman, a book.
Well, we're more of an introducer, to be honest, Derek, with loads of knowledge and using technology to help that. And we do package some stuff, and it would be quite interesting in the future if we started to pull together, say, a 2-week tour to go around. We've often talked about the motorcycle thing. I'm a keen motorcyclist. So we've often talked about the castle man leading a tour around castles. And then we stop in and we get the owner in for dinner and everything else and make it a very luxurious experience. So there's lots of little chats about that. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know, but it would be good fun.
Mm. Well, Roger, we nearly come to the end of our session today. What tip would you leave us with all your experience for people watching this on YouTube, from all your business experience for 2027?
Keep your head down and keep going, I think, in the current climate. I think the key thing, obviously, there's a load of AI coming in, and everybody's getting very excited about that. I think what I would be saying is get to understand the advantages of AI and ignore all the hype, because this is a tool that is the same or will disrupt the world the way the internet did when it first came in. But if you look at it from a positive point of view, there's huge advantage. So when I'm speaking to young people, I say, get AI skills that you can use to enable you to bring that human interaction and understanding of what you can do with data. So if you've got the data and you've got AI, it becomes a very, very powerful tool. And this is not about getting rid of people's jobs. This is about empowering individuals to use these tools to enhance and improve what you do in the process. For example, our team, we give them access to AI tools to improve emails, to look at data and analyze it. And we teach them to ask the right questions. It's not about copying other people's prompts. It's about understanding how you use an AI or an agent to become a second person in your team. And it's fascinating. It's just, going to be so exciting over the next 2 or 3 years and what it can do for us.
Fantastic, Roger. Your enthusiasm is contagious. Roger, I did promise you a 30-second pitch on Celtic muscles at the end. So we're all going to be looking at you very carefully on this pitch. So Roger, the castle man, go for it.
No pressure with Will here either. Well, basically, castles are, well, what we do is create fantastic experiences in historic castles. So if you ever want to have a castle experience, what it does is it's not like a hotel where you walk out and forget where you were. If you've been in a castle, it's a memory that lasts forever. Not just the castle experience, but the people you've had around you. So, it could be a special event, a special birthday, or just getting family together. And we do a lot of that. And imagine, the grandkids going down to the kitchen with the chef and making something and coming back. And that fairy tale is with them for the rest of their lives.
And Roger, if someone wants a ghost in a castle, can that be arranged?
Well, the first thing I would ask is, do you want it to be haunted? And if they say yes, that's not a problem. I know where all the ghosts are. I can't guarantee they'll come when you're there. And if it's not a haunting that you want, I don't mention a thing about anything to do with anything spiritual. But I have to say, Derek, nothing has ever moved in the night when I've been sleeping in a haunted room.
Roger, thanks for joining Monday Night Live. And can I ask members of Monday Night Live to give you a vote of thanks in a normal Monday Night Live way?
Absolute pleasure, Derek. It's been
And I
lovely
look
spending
forward,
time with
I
you.
look forward to that free trip to one of your castles for
I
giving
thought it was a five, or it was not a trip.
for giving you that fantastic pitch. Thanks for joining us, Roger, and I hope to catch up with you soon.
Lovely.